This is Luke Radowski of WeAreChange.org. I am joined by Mark Anderson, an amazing journalist, a Bilderberg investigator for many years, and also Jim Tucker's protege. Now, Anderson, we are at a very special Bilderberg. This is unlike any other year before. The security, the paranoia, the fear is higher than ever. Why?
Well, I think they're at a very pivotal stage in their globalist plans. Certainly with 15 topics, they're trying to cover a lot of ground in the notoriously short amount of time that they spend at each meeting. Of course, what goes on between Bilderberg meetings, not just at them, is very important. So 15 major topics, huge ones. USA elections, they've got a handle on that. They're going to want to know who the president is and have a lot of influence there. One of their topics, is globalization. Hell, you can park the whole universe under that. It's so broad, but they also have European strategy, so it shows that they're strategizing. They're not simply listening to each other talk and sipping tea and caviar. And so, they're covering a lot of ground. They're trying to prevent the EU and Eurozone unraveling. Grexit is in the news even now in Der Standard. This is the newspaper, Der Standard, that Bilderberg member Oscar Bronner, who attends every year, is the publisher of. Right in today's paper, Sunday, June 14, there's a big article about Grexit. They're very, very concerned. My inside and outside sources tell me that Greece is going to leave the Eurozone. Bilderberg member Martin Wolf, a longtime Bilderberg attendee who's a journalist for Financial Times, was told by a Citigroup representative that they are literally as afraid now of the EU and the Eurozone unraveling as they were in the early days of European integration when they first created the European Coal and Steel Community, right back to the very roots of European integration, which was a major thrust of the initial formation of Bilderberg. So they are literally looking right down to the roots of this thing and saying, is this thing going to hold together or not? And we got to remember that much of what they do is to try and keep together what they've already done, not just forge new plans. They've got to do the new and the old.
Yep. Now, you said a great thing with the agenda that the Bilderberg Group released publicly. It's like having a menu with only the word food on it. It's very vague. And you characterized it perfectly when you said that. But I'm curious, there seems to be a lot more kind of military-industrial complex people, a lot more people tied into the war machine this year at Bilderberg than any other previous year, and kind of less of the financial market, less of the IMF, less of the World Bank. From your sources inside and out, is there something brewing with maybe, obviously, Iran is also on the list, Russia is also on the list, our main kind of two enemies. Where do you see Bilderberg and their networks coming together and the military-industrial complex being a strong presence here with the future, with the kind of relationships that we have with Iran and Russia?
Well, there's a lot here, but yeah, Iran's on there. Like you say, that's a topic. So is Russia. Last year, Ukraine was a topic. And the NATO chief, the new one, Jens Stoltenberg, is here, having replaced Rasmussen. And yeah, you have the Danish head of intelligence. You have more intel-related people, cyber, such as Eric Schmidt of Google and Alex Karp and Peter Thiel, that are involved in a lot of high technology, high-techy projects. And with all the tension on the Russian border being carried out by NATO, who is really more of the aggressor, far less than Putin could ever think about, there does seem to be, and you can't nail every part of this down, but there does seem to be an emphasis on getting Europe weaned off its energy dependency on Russia, get it weaned onto energy dependency with Europe, and to keep pushing the war envelope and really pushing the envelope toward Russia. Russian-related things have been on there 2 years in a row now. Iran's on there. You have this jaundiced view of Iran. And as a side note, the Council on Foreign Relations, a well-known Bilderberg-connected think tank, which is always represented at Bilderberg by Robert Rubin, the former Goldman Sachs, former U.S. Treasury. Rubin is here this year, of course. The CFR has already vetted 3 U.S. presidential candidates: Lindsey Graham, anti-Iran warmonger; Marco Rubio, anti-Iran warmonger; and Hillary Clinton, anti-Iran warmonger. And they're also all anti-Russia. So everything's kind of lining up to this West versus East brinkmanship.
Yeah.
And there are fewer sitting U.S. congressmen, fewer U.S. senators, fewer currently serving U.S. officials, too. On top of what you said, there's more of a European parliamentary representation than American. But like you say, very heavy intelligence, military. They are definitely at a turning point, a break in the road.
It definitely feels like it being here with the paranoia. This is unlike any of Bilderberg that I covered before, with just the fear, with the security, with being hassled and harassed. I mean, it is virtually impossible to even get close to these guys. Every year, I always find a way to get one of them. This year, virtually impossible, which makes our job so much harder, especially with all the pressure, with all the police say here and doing all this. But as we know, Bilderberg is only one kind of organization. There's also a network of other organizations interlinked that kind of work together that you do a lot of great research on. How do you see the kind of inner networking, these kind of think tanks, this kind of outside organizations involved in Bilderberg?
Well, a major one is this rising star in Bilderberg, Klaus Kleinfeld of Alcoa. Now, he's with the Business Roundtable, which is one of the most powerful pro-corporate lobbies on the face of the earth. The Business Roundtable had its sights on Trans-Pacific partnerships and things like that, similar things back in 2005. I've got a report about that. Kleinfeld is here every year, and his Business Roundtable is bending the arms of U.S. congressmen right now to pass fast-track authority for Obama to get the Trans-Pacific and Transatlantic partnerships, which are very Bilderberg friendly. And as Jim Tucker would report, they get their Trans-Pacific, or their Pacific Union rather, that's the Trans-Pacific Partnership, their Atlantic Union, that's the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership. Tucker pointed out early that these big building blocks with their economic trade deals would be a major construction cornerstones, if you will, major construction components of a world state, a corporate world state. And so Kleinfeld is a major one through the Business Roundtable trying to get the fast track through Congress. The other one I mentioned a bit ago, the CFR, which is vetting U.S. presidential candidates, and then Robert Rubin brings that information to Bilderberg through the CFR. It goes back a long ways. Just a few years ago, I covered the Transatlantic Academy, and they were talking then, 4 years ago, at a Chicago Council on Global Affairs meeting that I attended about how to give Greece a haircut. How do we get the Greeks to pay as much as possible on the bonds that are floated to them to bail them out, give them as much austerity as possible, cut wages, raise taxes? How much of a haircut can we give them before they complain too much? And they were talking about, do they extend the indebtedness for 10 years? Do they make the indebtedness a shorter term, longer term? And you go to the Transatlantic Academy, the Chicago Council on Global Affairs, the Brookings Institution, and you hear parts of Bilderberg that later plug into the hub. And they're all reading off the same page. Brookings is huge at Bilderberg. Not this year, but most years. Lai Cheng of Brookings, who also has consulted U.S. presidential candidates. See, so this is how they work. Bilderberg can have plausible deniability, but these think tanks that plug into it do a lot of the legwork and then bring it to Bilderberg.
Yep, just like the mafia, they have a hidden person, and then they have the work guy just get everything else done for him. And it's exactly how it works down here. And you kind of pinpointed it and networked it very, very perfectly. As we know, Goldman Sachs, who does participate in these meetings, also pumped and dumped Greece and just destroyed it, and now they're in this insane mess, but it's always order out of chaos. So
very well put. Yes.
What I'm seeing is more war, more financial catastrophe coming from the Bilderberg meeting. Am I right or am I wrong?
No, you're right, because the Bilderbergers are the custodians of a system, and they're like a central hub. They're not the most powerful thing in the world necessarily. We don't want to give them too much credit, but they're like a central hub to where these other organizations feed in as spokes. And they're basically the protectors of the debt-based money system, the basic framework that makes them and their brethren wealthy, that keeps the bloodlines of royalty in place. They are the most protected people on earth, but they'll scream at us if we want a small tariff on Chinese imports in the United States and say we're protectionists and just a bunch of rednecks with guns.
Yeah.
They are the most protected people on earth in every aspect of their existence. And how dare they call us protectionists?
Yeah.
And as you say, the meeting at the Interalpen in Telfs, Austria, on the west side of Austria, is the most secluded place you and I have probably ever dealt with. You can't see it from the street. You got to be practically in an eagle's nest or an eagle in the sky to see it at all. And unlike last year in Denmark, they're right along a busy boulevard. I don't know what that's about, but it is very tight. They're at a crossroads. They're at a breaking point, maybe you could even call it. They put their socks on like you and me. They're not omnipotent. They've got to keep working at this and do everything they can to hold together what they've put together since 1954, and yet at the same time try and move forward. Yeah. And it's up to us to expose them, because the U.S. media, unlike mainstream media in Europe, just is not doing it. They're blacking it out again.
Yeah, they're not only protected, but they're also paranoid, which is kind of the activity of globalist mafia thugs, which is exactly like how they're acting. Any other comments on this year's Bilderberg?
Well, I would say that they're going to probably be in the States next year. They tend to be 3 Europe and 1 either States or Canada, kind of 3 and 1. The Trilateral Commission is 2 overseas, 1 America, 2 overseas, 1 America. I think we're looking at the States next year. That's where I'm looking at. That's not, as we know, that's not foolproof, but that's the pattern. They've met in the States 10 times. This is their 3rd time in Austria. All we can do is keep dogging them to where they get tired of the publicity and Of course, they have all these different connections. They have ways of shifting the responsibility around, and that's why we have to follow them year-round, not just at these meetings.
I'm very happy you're here. Thank you so much for your deep investigating. Mark Anderson, really appreciate your time. Your links will be in the description below. Definitely check out Mark and all the great, amazing work he's done. It's really true, independent, free media that's out here doing the work that needs to be done. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video informational, click the like button, and of course, don't forget to subscribe.
Very good, Luke.
Thank you so much.